Innovation is the keystone of what and who we are. The opposite of innovation is stagnation, and the only way to move forward is to keep innovating, because that's how we're going to get better.
The bad guys are innovating every minute. We have to innovate to keep up. It's the only way to do business.
Innovation is transformative.
Innovation is power.
Innovation is finding your acceleration points.
Innovation is asking, can we do that better?
Innovation is for everyone.
We need to understand that applied research is more about innovation, how I apply that on a real-world problems.
I think innovation is the secret to the future.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second annual State of Innovation Summit. I'm Dean Duncan, Executive Director for the Partnership of Economic Innovation, where we believe innovation is the secret to our future. I'm pleased to introduce my co-host for today's event, Grace O'Sullivan, the newest PEI board member and Vice President of Corporate Engagement and Strategic Partnerships at ASU's Knowledge Enterprise. Grace, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Dean. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you to everybody who's joined us in the audience.
Many updates in store since last year's event. First, Grace and I will set the stage with an overview of our innovation continuum.
And then next, we'll dive into 3 panels to meet the leaders of these industry-led projects who are already making an impact. Some of you who you just heard in the video.
I'm looking forward to those panels. Finally, we'll be joined by PEI board member and president CEO of Greater Phoenix Economic Council, Chris Camacho, to deliver a closing word.
And should you have any questions for today's panelist, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen and we'll be sure to follow up with an answer. We'll also be making today's recording available for watching after the program at azpei.org.
Thank you, Grace.
All right, let's get started. Please kick us off, Dean.
Okay, here we go. As the Executive Director of the Partnership for Economic Innovation, or PEI as we call it, I'm excited to dig into how our passionate group of business and community leaders is working to accelerate Arizona's economic opportunities. PEI was formed in response to the Great Recession, when community leaders came together to make sure Arizona is equipped to be resilient, particularly during economic downturns, with the workforce needed to face the future. We believe Arizona can fulfill its potential as a world-class, diversified economy, a place where innovators can bring world-changing ideas to market, and where all Arizonans have an opportunity and a clear pathway forward.
Yes, and in my role at Arizona State University and on the PEI board, I've been able to see firsthand how investments at every level of the innovation ecosystem have resulted in tremendous opportunities for our state, whether that's attracting global businesses or inspiring the next generation of entrepreneurs. Dean, why don't we dig into some of these assets that have been created from this investment?
Certainly, Grace. One of PEI's main strategies for helping Arizona accelerate our economy is through applied research centers, which are laser focused on getting high potential emerging technologies ready for commercialization. PEI's Applied Research Center PEI's WearTech Applied Research Center focuses on developing future of health and biomedical technology, while our Blockchain Applied Research Center is partnering directly with industry members to pioneer new solutions, including for global security issues. We've been able to accelerate important projects through our centers with investment from the Arizona legislature.
That's great. And I know we'll get to meet some of these leaders of the projects a little later. I'm very excited for that. And at ASU, all through investment from the state legislature for the New Economy Initiative, we've been able to stand up new science and technology centers, or STCs as we're calling them. STCs will be the vehicles that allow industry to work with faculty members and students in key areas that are going to be critical to Arizona's next economy. Our first two STCs for advanced manufacturing and energy and materials and devices are already serving as a national resource for the semiconductor industry.
That's great. That's an achievement that wouldn't be possible without the collaboration of our state leaders. We'd like to take a moment and thank the governor and the legislature for appropriating funds to support innovation in Arizona. And thank you for the support of the Arizona Commerce Authority, who administers the program on behalf of the state. Let's now discuss how our shared investment model for applied research works. At PEI, we've been able to combine state funds with matching private funds to invest in applied research projects that would traditionally encounter the valley of death investment gap. By connecting companies who are seeking novel solutions to talented researchers and shared funding, our applied research center model de-risks innovation investment and helps early stage concepts bridge the valley of death. The valley of death exists everywhere innovation takes place, but is particularly critical to help overcome here in Arizona. Access to public funds is an important piece of our strategy, but not the only piece. Our model is scalable, so more public investment will create a flywheel effect that will continue to demonstrate a return year over year.
Right, and what have you seen from the investment so far?
Good question. Our WearTech Center has already propelled 5 wearable products into the next stage of development, and we are excited about the phenomenal projects in our upcoming cohort. You'll hear more about that from the first panel. Blockchain is attracting potential new members interested in solving complex real-world problems with blockchain technology.
What kind of ROI are you expecting from all this? Oh, it's like you're reading my mind.
I read your mind. To date, PEI has leveraged about $800,000 in taxpayer funds made available by the state to invest in applied research. According to a 2021 impact study by the Rounds Consulting Group, every dollar of initial taxpayer investment is projected to generate between $4 and $5 in state and local tax revenue over the course of a decade. And that ratio stays the same as state and private investment increase. Last year, we were really pleased when the state legislature continued its support for innovation and made an additional $5 million available to advance applied research focused on wearable technology and blockchain.
Shout out to Jim Rounds. They're terrific. And that's a really high ROI.
It is a lot of great work by Jim and his team, and yeah, really pleased. The shared investment model amplifies what are already high impact, high return projects. I'm sure the same opportunities are true at ASU.
Yes, for ASU, we're also appreciative of the legislature and the governor's support for the New Economy Initiative, which has the goals of creating 40,000 new high-wage jobs by 2041, increase economic output by $6.9 billion by 2032, and doubling the state's return on investment that same year. So the funds appropriated for the new economy have multiple goals, but they've already helped us launch 2 science and technology centers with the plans of new future STCs in the works. So STCs are a key piece of the strategy behind New Economy, where we can focus on growing industries right here in Arizona to support that thriving economy and grow the workforce.
That's a great return too, Grace. ASU is doing some great things. This year, it's incredibly important that we continue our momentum and make the investments needed to scale the impact of innovation on our state. A renewed legislative investment of $3 to $5 million for applied research focused on developing tomorrow's products will make a huge impact on the Arizona economy.
And the same is true for ASU's New Economy Initiative, where we believe a legislative investment of $34.5 million will help us to accelerate towards the goal of giving Arizona that economic engine that's also competitive on a global scale.
This continuum of investment is necessary if we're going to be a leader in innovation, entrepreneurship, and economic growth. But don't take it from Grace and I. Let's dive into our first panel and meet some of the innovators who are leading applied research for health and performance.
Great. First, we'll hear from the researchers and entrepreneurs from PEI's WearTech Applied Research Center. The WearTech Center is located at the heart of Phoenix's bioscience core, where researchers can easily connect with clinicians and members of the surrounding ecosystem. So WearTech takes innovative ideas that may have been developed through university research, combines those ideas with businesses who want to commercialize them, then adds in that public financial investment that we were just talking about to accelerate projects and products that are ready to go to market.
I'm now pleased to introduce to you a fantastic team member who leads PEI's applied research strategy, Kathleen Lee. Kathleen is Director of Applied Research Centers at PEI and Senior Vice President of Regional Initiatives at Greater Phoenix Economic Council, where she leads high-impact projects to advance Arizona's capacity for innovation and job creation. Kathleen, turn it over to you to introduce our WearTech panelists.
Thank you, Dean. And hello, everyone. It's been my honor to be part of the Applied Research Initiative and being able to work with amazing WearTech companies and innovators, constantly learning from them, and I hope you will too, hearing from my innovation leaders on the panel today. So let's get started. I'm excited to introduce to you our panelists who are all addressing critical needs in healthcare and other industries through their work and companies. Our first panelist is Vicki Mayo. She is a self-made serial entrepreneur and the business powerhouse behind the startup, the Touchpoint Solutions. She invented patent pending technology that reduces stress in 30 seconds. And Vicki is also the newest member of our WearTech Advisory Board. Next, we have Dr. Joe Hitt. He is recognized as a national expert in wearable robotic systems, and his company GoX Labs is developing and testing new exoskeleton technology at the WearTech Center. And then rounding out the panel today is Dr. Jennifer Blaine Kristen. She leads the Bioelectrical Systems and Technology Lab at ASU. Her WearTech project, as part of our upcoming cohort, is a fetal monitor that ensures safe infant delivery. So welcome, everyone. We're excited to hear from all of you. Okay, Joe, let's start with you. Can you talk about why wearable technology is such a promising area of research and product development?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks for letting me be here. This is fantastic, and I just love the idea that over the last several years, we've really been able to create this kind of center of gravity, in wearable technology, really with the support of PEI, the state, Kathleen, you, WearTech. So thank you so much. Well, the need is so great. 89 million workers are exposed to injury on a daily basis. And the problem is only getting worse, as you can imagine, because the workforce is aging. We have diabetes in the workforce. We have obesity in the workforce. And the sheer velocity, the pace of work is increasing on a daily basis. And so what we are doing at WearTech today, in partnership with Arizona State University and a local company called AKE, is to build the very first quasi-passive exoskeleton. So quasi-passive, what that means is we use sensors to turn on springs at the exact moment those springs are needed to literally uplift our workers. We're going to test these exoskeletons over the course of this year with local companies like Amazon and Lucent Motors. And I think we're going to truly transform human capability with these quasi-passive exoskeletons.
That sounds so exciting, Joe, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. So let's go to Vicky. We would love to hear more about your validation process behind the technology that you're working on, and why is this process such an important one?
Thank you so much, Kathleen, and thanks so much for everyone that's attending the Innovation Summit today. Our company, Touchpoint Solution, invented a stress-relieving wearable device called Touchpoints. We're so excited because we are currently working with the Wear Tech Center on the product development of our newest version of Touchpoints. Product development is the actualization of an idea, and that inherently creates a lot of risk. For the development of most products, you're working across a wide variety of multiple disciplines and multiple teams. For us at Touchpoint, we needed help with not only mechanical engineering, but industrial design, app development, and an entire data science team. The Wear Tech Center mitigated this risk for us with working with multiple vendors and multiple teams by creating an ecosystem of trusted vendors that could help with product development. For us particularly, they connected us with Arizona State University's Lumosity Lab, who was able to provide all of these services directly under one roof. Second, the Wear Tech Center provides a level of oversight. And for us, again, particularly, it helped to ensure that we were pursuing an idea that had market applicability and fit. And lastly, the Wear Tech Center's matching grant component helped us to finance our project. So, personal plug for the center, anyone that's doing work in the wearable space, I highly recommend that you can contact them and explore all the different venues that are available to you.
Thanks, Vicki. And I love that you pointed out the ecosystem and how important that is to be part of this innovation process. So let's go to Jennifer. You've been part of the Wear Tech Center and you have another exciting project coming up. What's been your experience being part of the Wear Tech Center?
I think one of the things that's been incredibly helpful for me as a researcher is to work with the center in understanding how to set up all of the contracts and agreements, relationships, finding those individuals who have problems that I can bring my science to solve, and not having to really worry about all of those other things, the lawyers and agreements that I'm not really well suited to set up on my own. And so really, there's been a lot of advocacy for me as a researcher in setting up these agreements, setting up things that are going to be successful, and understanding how to combine the efforts of a lot of different groups in a way that's going to be successful. So it's been really nice to have that support. Wes has been fantastic in helping me understand a lot of the paperwork, that I'm not a lawyer, and allow me to really spend the time focusing on the science that I love to do.
And that's great to hear, Jennifer. And of course, I'm not a lawyer, and so the support that we are able to provide to our startup companies and innovators has been really rewarding for us to see the success that have come out of the work that we've been doing. But let me go back to Vicki and want to ask you, what are your next steps before bringing your product to market?
Thanks, Kathleen. That's a great question. Right now, as we're doing the product development, in tandem with that, we're working on all of the, I would call it some of the exciting stuff, a lot of the branding, what are we going to call the new product? How are we going to release it to market? And as we dig deeper and deeper into those steps, I have no doubt that we will be reaching out to that ecosystem that you mentioned to bounce ideas off and to get great guidance. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about Arizona in general and our innovation ecosystem is that it doesn't matter who you pick up the phone and call, but whether it's a vendor or a friend or something. I feel like the people in Arizona step up just to support. And so we're very excited as we move into the next phase of how we're going to launch this product onto market, that we continue to work with what we have available to us.
Thanks, Vicki. So kind of similar question to you, Joel, and I know you work a lot with different industries and your reach has been global. Tell us more about like how you collaborate and engage with industry, other industry partners and research institutions.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So Tom Sugar, professor at Arizona State University, and myself, by the way, Tom Sugar is my PhD advisor. So I've known him for a long time, a good friend of mine. Him and I started the Wearable Robotics Trade Association 6 years ago, and we have conferences all over the world. Next one is WearCon 22. It's going to be a physical event in April in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I think what we need is more of that. We need to be a leader in the different areas of wearable technology to really create that hub here in Arizona for us in exoskeletons.
Thanks, Joe. And let's go to Jennifer, back to Jennifer. As a renowned scientist and innovator, how do you see the continued collaboration between industry and university shaping up?
I've seen a lot of growth, and one of the things I'm really passionate about is translational work in the wearable space. I don't want to just do things in my laboratory. I want to see them actually get to people, have impact in our within Arizona and then the broader global environment. And so I think there have been so many excellent resources that have been developed in Arizona to really encourage and incubate these relationships between companies, between researchers. And we have an incredible resource in intellect, as well as the programs that have been developed to further these efforts. So I think that one of the things that I'd like to see is just more knowledge. And this is actually one of the things that's great, getting the word out, letting people know that these resources are available, so we have more people taking advantage of them, more people involved, and really leveraging all of that knowledge and all of the human resource, all of the things that we have going on in Arizona that are going to enable a lot of advances in the wearable space.
Thank you, Jennifer. And we're pretty excited too of the ecosystem development and the investment that the state is making in realizing all of these resources that our innovators need. And we're getting recognized nationally for the growth of our great companies, and that's attracting other talented individuals to our state. So we're really excited. And so as a closing question, I want all of you to kind of look ahead into the future, and would love to hear from you. What more should Arizona be doing to really position ourselves as innovation leaders in wearable technology? So let's start with Vicki.
Thanks, Kathleen. It's such a great question. Without innovation, we will continue to stagnate. We won't move forward. So I think it's really important that as Arizona looks to the future and continues to take that great place in the country, being an innovation leader, we have to continue to attract top talent. We have to keep innovating. We've got to keep bringing cutting edge companies to the state. I think that creating that overall environment that continues to sustain and to support these types of companies is something that Arizona needs to continue to actively work on. In addition to strengthening, the foundation and the groundwork that's already been laid with things like the innovation flywheel and all of the applied centers that we just talked about at the beginning of our summit. I think it's also important that we continue to improve our education system, our housing system, and our jobs, because that's what's going to provide the sustainment of all the amazing work that we're putting into place right now.
Thanks, Vicki. That's amazing vision for Arizona. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I think that we really have to increase that velocity of innovation. And we need to increase that velocity of investment. And then we have to connect that innovation, that investment to need. And I think that's what we're doing really well already. This is a vibrant state. There's so much going for us. And so I think that increasing the velocity of innovation, increasing the velocity of investment, and then connecting that to real world needs that's what we need to continue to do. And I think what organizations like PEI and WearTech really helps us with is, as a researcher, is to say, well, this is such a great little technology, but when PEI and WearTech come in, they look at that and go, but what need does that solve? How scalable is that solution? So that connectivity has been so important, and I think we just need to continue that.
Thanks, Joe. That's great. So lastly, Jennifer, what are some closing thoughts?
I absolutely agree with what we've heard so far. Really great statements. In addition, I always try to talk to people about participatory innovation. And this summit and PEI, WearTech all help with that. We want to ensure that the people who are in the lab doing the research are talking to the end users, talking to the investors, talking to the state, so that we all understand the rapidly changing ecosystem that we have here in Arizona. And that will allow the state to really support us in a way that is growing as we grow as a leader in medical technology and wearable devices.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you, Joe and Vicki. This has been a great conversation. Really appreciate your thoughts and your vision and leadership. Before we conclude our WearTech panel, we actually have a message to share from a panelist who wasn't able to join us today. Dr. Zachary Lerner is an assistant professor of engineering at Northern Arizona University, and he's pioneering robotics to improve mobility and neuromotor functions for individuals with disabilities. So let's roll video and take a look at the work he's doing as part of the next WearTech cohort.
Hi, my name is Zach Lerner. I'm an assistant professor in mechanical engineering at Northern Arizona University. I'm also a co-founder and CTO of Biomodem, a wearable robotics company. We're really thrilled to take part in this WearTech Applied Research Center. So we're developing robotic solutions to impaired mobility. Our primary focus has been on assisting individuals with cerebral palsy and other pediatric movement disorders, and we use lightweight wearable robotics to help make walking easier. We're trying to leverage the electrification that's happening in the transportation sector to deliver life-changing technology that people can actually afford. So being a part of this latest WearTech cohort will significantly advance the development of our product. So our product has been developed for use in physical therapy settings, so in clinical environments. And this award will help us develop the technology for use at home and in the community. So these are the locations that are really critical for driving adoption and maximizing the impact. This award will also help us complete product development activities that are really critical to our success, including establishing a quality management system, completing validation testing, things like that. I'd like to thank the Arizona Commerce Authority and our partners at the WearTech Applied Research Center for making this award happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen, and to our WearTech panelists. That was really exciting. Great to be a part of this ecosystem, and really important to hear all of it. Dr. Lerner's project is one of many examples of what we can accomplish with public investment in applied research. Next up, we'll take you inside PEI's applied blockchain applied research center, which is working to overcome some of the most complex digital security questions faced by industry today. The center's research partner is Arizona State University. Together, we've already assembled some powerful industry partners, including Kadelsky Security, Intel, Move Medical, Early Warning, and BD.
And I'm happy to introduce Wes Gullett, who will moderate our panel today. Wes wears many hats, including serving as Director of Operations for PEI's Applied Research Centers. He's also CEO of OH Communications and a well-respected leader in our community. We look forward to the discussion, Wes. Thanks.
Thanks, Grayson. It's great to be here today. We're very excited. Today we've got a panel of experts who are all helping make Arizona the hub for blockchain development. First of all, we have Scott Carlson, and Scott is the head of blockchain security at Kadolsky Security, the premier advisor and cybersecurity innovator for today's most security conscious organizations. And he's also a member of the Arizona Blockchain Applied Research Center, as is Kadolsky Security. Next, we have Dragan Boskovic. Dragan is our research director at PEI's Arizona Blockchain Applied Research Center. He's a founder and director of ASU's Blockchain Research Lab, technical director at ASU's Center for Assured and Scalable Data Engineering, and a research professor at ASU's School of Computing. He's also a distinguished visiting scholar at Stanford University's MediaX. And hopefully joining us will be State Representative Justin Wilmoth. And I've been texting with Representative Wilmoth, and he is still stuck on the floor. But I think he'll be joining us before the segment's up. And he Representative Wilmoth chaired the Arizona Legislature's Blockchain Study Committee. He is also the vice chairman of the Transportation Committee and serves on the Commerce and Health and Human Services Committee at the Arizona House of Representatives. And hopefully he'll pop in before we're finished here. But the good news is Dragan was also on that study committee, so he can answer some of the questions that we have for that. Thank you all for being here today. It's good to see you guys. Blockchain is a challenging thing to talk about because it's so complicated. So today we've got Scott Carlson, who's going to give us a little 101 discussion on blockchain so that we can level set this conversation. Scott, take it away.
Thanks, Wes. Appreciate being here today. So blockchain is tricky to talk about because it's a probably very large set of computer systems that all participate together to solve things in the way computers solve them, with programs and mathematics and encryption. The point of blockchain technology is to essentially remove the middleman from the conversation. Today, we rely on banks, information brokers, and such to sort of be this touch point for payments and information flow. And if we look at how to build a digital computer system to solve those problems without that intermediary middleman, the blockchain has to do things like, how do I know the information stays true with integrity? How do I know all the nodes have the same information all at the same time when I update it or query it? How do I know how the information can come and go and who has permission to it and if it's public or private? These are very challenging technical problems to solve. And as we look at what blockchain is, complex computers, we need to have centers like this, Wes, to study how we can solve this problem that blockchain is trying to solve.
Great, thanks, Scott, for that description of blockchain. Now we want to talk to our research director, Dragan Boskovic, to talk a little bit about Dragan, what's the challenge? Why is applied research important here? What's the advantage of doing applied research? And the Blockchain Center, the Arizona Blockchain Center, is one of the few applied research centers in the whole world. So tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you, Wes. And I think really applied is the key here because I think if we are to look into innovation, it has two components. It has advanced research and has applied research. So we are focusing on applied within BARC. However, at the same time, we are very much focused also on advanced research with ASU. So having those two play hand in hand is the key for having innovation circle, as I call it, because you need to have new knowledge and then you need to learn how to apply that new knowledge onto applied problems. So in that respect, we have BARC that is uniquely positioned to actually applied that new knowledge together with our industrial partners, because having spent 25 plus years in industry, I know how it is important to have that industrial view and also business view on what is really going to make impact. And just briefly building on what Scott said, if we are thinking of removing middlemen, then it is always also about what does it mean to my new business ecosystem. So blockchain is in that respect also very much about business innovation. It is not just technology, but it is also business.
Yeah, one of the projects that we're working on right now, Dragon, at the center, is on inventory control management, and that's something that every business needs to use. And it's interesting how the blockchain, if we use the blockchain on inventory management controls, that can really help out all kinds of industry. Can you talk just a little bit about that for a second?
Yeah, I think it is just one of the projects that we have within the center. So if you think of supply chain and having physical goods that needs to move through that supply chain, right now we know very well that there is an issue on the global scale with that due to pandemic. So what we have is basically building digital twins of those physical products, and then being able through this distributed system of the computers to monitor all the contextual and also direct information that are very important to how that physical product move through the supply chain. So having ability to monitor and having ability to have information that we can trust, we can then easily engage into forecasting and planning. So that is one of the key components that we are getting information which we can trust, and then we can use for all kinds of applications.
It sounds like it will be very helpful. Representative Wilmoth, welcome. Glad you got here. I know you're out of breath, so I was giving you a second to catch your breath. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. You chaired the blockchain study committee this past fall, and Dragon was on that committee. You guys were working on a lot of very interesting topics to keep Arizona in the forefront. And I think it's very insightful that the legislature is looking at this. Arizona is in an advanced position. We're a leader in fintech, and we're a leader in blockchain work. So can you tell us a little bit about what you found working on the blockchain study committee this fall?
Well, first off, thanks for having me. And secondly, I guess my big takeaway from that committee, and it actually doesn't sunset until the end of this year. So we're hoping to do some more meetings later on this year. And there's not a lot of bills in this space this session, but we're hoping to build to more for next year. The biggest takeaway I had was Wyoming is leading the way in a lot of areas. And I'm a competitive guy, and I think that Arizona should be up there with Wyoming, if not besting them on stuff. And I know our two other panelists that have spoke to y'all about this topic know way more than me. I am just happy and proud to be in a position where I can help on the legislative side, find a way to get Arizona to that point. I'm a low regulation guy at my core, but this is a new frontier. And my mindset is how do we do this in such a way where we can, it's like paving a road. How can we pave the road and get us going in the right direction without having too many speed bumps along the way, right? So I learned a lot from all these experts on this committee, and I was floored and honored to have so many knowledgeable minds on that. And they're on notice that they're going to meet with me a couple more times later on this year to talk about some new aspects and some things we can do for 2023. The last thing I want to say as an intro is that Representative Jeff Weniger set me up with that bill for last year, and he's on his way out. He's running for another office and termed out here. So I've kind of been dubbed one of the guys that's going to lead the charge on the next generation of political leadership on this. And I'm by no means an expert, but I'm learning a lot all the time, and I'm very excited to be a part of it.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that the investments that you've made in blockchain on the applied research side are paving the way, because like I mentioned before, we are the Arizona Blockchain Applied Research Center is one of the only centers in the country that's working on how do we put together blockchain technology for business. And it's industry led. Industry comes to us with challenges, and then we try and figure out how to address those challenges by using applied research and building products for the future. That's going to put us a little bit ahead of Wyoming. So that's one way we can keep ahead of them. And then on the regulatory side, the work that you're doing on these new ideas about how distributed technology works is really important. So we're very proud of you, and we want to make sure that we can do everything that we can in our power to assist you in that effort. So thank you very much for your leadership.
Well, it's literally part of the job. I'm glad I just get to be part of the team on this. And, you know, I'm always going to defer to the experts on this. I know some people over the years, they come down here and they think they have to know everything about everything. And that's not me. I want to keep learning so that I can do the right things the first time. And, you know, there's always that joke about we run a bill and then 2 or 3 years later, there's a cleanup bill because it's something that we didn't think about. I'd rather do it right the first time, because in this scope, in this area, we're not paving over old roads here. We're building new highways, and this is the next generation. And everybody talks about Bitcoin a lot, but the blockchain thing, the more I learn about it, is just absolutely the most exciting aspect for me. And, you know, when my friends ask me what this is about, I always try to tell people in a very conversational way, because we can get lost in the weeds. But I'm basically telling them, like, this is going to revolutionize our security with all of our documents, from health to education to everything else. So credit cards, there's so many things this is going to be used for. And I really don't think the average public understands that in a decade, we're going to look at stuff like this as common, like we look at Twitter now. Twitter started in 2008. And now every campaign, every politician, jokers like me, we all have a Twitter account. That wasn't a thing not too long ago. And that's what excites me about being part of this, is that we get to be at this beginning of this amazing new path that's going to really revolutionize our society in a lot of ways.
Thank you again for your leadership. Now, Scott, you know, there's been a lot in the news lately. A lot of people are very nervous. Cyber attacks, things like that are happening. It seems like everybody's nervous about what our enemies might be doing. Can work on the blockchain and the work that you're doing in the cybersecurity, can it help protect us? Is the blockchain one of the things that can help when we're looking at the future of how this application will be used?
Yeah, so, you know, if you take apart that question a little bit, one of the things that the blockchain promises is that any data you put in stays the way you put it in. It has integrity forever. And some people use the term immutable. Some people just say integrity. And if it has integrity, you can trust it, right? Imagine a data repository that everybody can use that is always accurate. Like suddenly you transform mortgages and loans and people records, and are you a citizen? Do you have this health thing? Can you pay? Like all this stuff is instant and real and has integrity because we've kept it current. What that also means is you can't tamper with it and the bad guy can't go mess it up, right? They can attack a central database today and change it because they got the administrative credentials. In a blockchain, there is no central place to change it all. There is no, way to mess the whole thing up. You have to pick a tiny piece and, maybe you compromise a person or a node or one tiny little piece of the data. But we would notice, because the point of the blockchain is to be decentralized and keep track of those transactions that are made improperly. There's, of course, a lot to work out here, right? This blockchain has been around for 12 years, 13 years. It's been R&D'd for 20. but we've really been doing it for 5, 3, or 1, depending on how you count, right? There's very few real citizen impacting projects in place. And one of the things that our sandbox did here a few years ago is made it legal to go try this stuff. Because with a complicated technology like blockchain, you figure out if it would work, you build a POC, you make it legal to do it, and then you scale up and build a society around it, right? We have to do all those 4 pieces. And we're at the applied and the legal side. And if those go hand in hand, right, what we're seeing now is these things that are working themselves out, suddenly we will transform a part of government or a part of supply chain or a part of something like that, because we've done all this research. And Arizona will be the place with a digital supply chain, or the place with, you can buy a house in 1 day because we've figured all this out. Like, that's really cool to me.
That is exciting. And to me, it seems like, none of us know how a Cisco switch works, but we know it's integral to the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think in 10 years, we're not going to know exactly how blockchain works, but distributed integrity in the system is going to be the background of the entire internet, and everything that we do is going to be on that system. And Dragon, you've been on the cutting edge of technology for years. You worked for Motorola, you worked at Google. You've seen how this stuff goes. Tell us a little bit about what you see in the future about blockchain.
Yeah, I think that is an excellent question, and I like to build on what we heard from Scott. So I think I perceive blockchain to be just a next wave of internet revolution. We might call that Web 3.0, but we also should then recalibrate ourselves. What was 1 and 2? 1 was all about information sharing, and then Web 2 was all about how I interact with the content that is online, okay? With Web 3.0, it is all about data ownership. And I would stress the data ownership because now with 2.0, we do not have much, I would say, control over the data that we leave behind any time we browse or even here with these videos. Going forward, we would be able to have ability to control how the data traces that we generate and leave behind are used. We might like to donate them, we might like to monetize them, depends on the objectives of the application. But blockchain is going to give us all those tools that we need in order to basically control access to information and how information is used, how is data used. So within BARC, we have already started number of projects along those lines. So we are now starting to build a data marketplace, which would enable people to have access to those tools or the levers that will help them decide how the data is going to be used. Is it medical health records, or is it something more trivial? It is not important. Blockchain has those hooks in place that we need in order to control the access and the use of that data.
Great. Well, thank you, guys. Thank you all for participating today. Representative Wilmoth, thank you for your leadership on this. We want to continue to work with you on developing the policy infrastructure to go forward. This is a massive economic engine that we're talking about here today. And we're doing some really incredible work at the Arizona Applied Research Center for blockchain. And we want to continue to do that. So we really appreciate your support. Dragon, it's always good to be with you. Scott, keep us safe and make sure that we're all in a good place. So thank you all very much. And I'll turn it back over to Dean and Grace. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about blockchain here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you, blockchain panelists. That's really exciting work. So fabulous overview. Thank you.
And up next, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce ASU's Executive Vice President of the Knowledge Enterprise, Dr. Sally Morton. What is a knowledge enterprise? It's the pillar of the university that advances research, innovation, strategic partnerships, entrepreneurship, economic development, and much, much more. It serves as the new model for the 21st century global research university. Dr. Morton will lead us in a conversation about the Science and Technology Centers, one of the core components of the New Economy Initiative. Here's Dr. Morton.
Thank you, Grace, and good afternoon, everyone. As Grace said, my name is Sally Morton, and I am the Executive Vice President of Knowledge Enterprise at Arizona State University. And I'm excited to get to share with you the ambition and the drive that Arizona State University is already bringing to the New Economy Initiative and the crucial work of growing future industries right here in Arizona. And in a moment, I'll be speaking with three key leaders in the development of ASU's Science and Technology Centers, which are an incredibly exciting part of the New Economy Initiative. Now, as you know, the New Economy Initiative, or NEI, is a generous bipartisan investment by our elected leaders and fellow citizens in the future growth and success of the Arizona economy. And it's an investment in all of us in this meeting. And its success is contingent on the full and active contributions of energy, creativity, and talent from people in today's audience and the many others like us. And I'm so grateful for that because you are the people who can make this happen. Now, Grace has already described the Science and Technology Centers, or STCs, a little already today, so I'll be brief. The Science and Technology Centers are the engines of the New Economy Initiative here at ASU. They are the intellectual hubs where university experts, industry leaders, and ASU students will come together to identify the needs of our communities, solve problems, design new businesses, create new jobs, and train workers all over the state. And when we are successful, when new solutions are discovered, when new businesses are created, and when existing businesses are attracted to Arizona, the SDCs will be part of creating the pipeline of talent, driven graduates to keep our new economy going. And I'm thrilled that we have a student on our panel today, and you will see what an outstanding example she is of this important work. There's another exciting element to the Science and Technology Centers that I'd like you to keep in mind. It relates to the core mission of the university. One of our ambitions at ASU is to elevate and expand the way research is conducted. It's to speed up and streamline the process of coming up with needed solutions. It's to advance those solutions into the world quickly and effectively. In summary, one of ASU's missions is to change the way the world solves problems. The Science and Technology Center model is a powerful example of a new way of problem solving. These centers are a proven method of expanding economic prosperity quickly and at scale. And their unique combination of faculty, students, and industry partners also gives us a new platform to solve important problems. This is needed. We all must work up to our potential, and we must take responsibility wherever possible to help others work up to theirs, including a focus on expanding diversity and access. The Science and Technology Centers will be an excellent example of how we can do that. And so I urge you to think boldly about how you can be a part of the success of the Science and Technology Centers. We welcome and we need your energy and your high aspirations. As you listen to this discussion, I hope you'll consider how you might contribute, because the opportunity we've been given here is bounded only by our ambition. And I can't wait for you to experience the ambition of our three panelists. So let me introduce our panelists. Dr. Kyle Squires is the Dean of the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, one of the nation's largest engineering schools. He's also Vice Provost of Engineering, Computing, and Technology at Arizona State University. He's been a crucial leader and a visionary in the development of the science and technology centers, and indeed in the implementation of the entire New Economy Initiative. Also joining us is Dr. Zach Holman. Dr. Holman is an associate professor in the School of Electrical, Computer, and Energy Engineering within the Fulton Schools of Engineering. And we have Nicole Swatton, a senior in the School of Electrical, Computer, and Engineering, and Energy Engineering. So let's begin our questions. So Nicole, I'd like to start with you. Students will play such a crucial role in the success of the Science and Technology Centers, or STCs, and we're confident the STCs will provide really amazing experiences for the students. Your undergraduate career has been really remarkable, and in a way, I think it's been a model for the kinds of things we think students will be doing in the STCs. Can you share a little bit about your journey, please?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be able to introduce this panel and excited to offer a student perspective to all the things we've been talking about today. So I'm an Arizona native. I come from down the street 15 minutes away, and so I chose to go to ASU my freshman year. And I say I got really lucky because I knew I wanted to go into solar. I knew that's what I wanted to do at 18 years old, and I did it and I like it. So I got really lucky doing that. So freshman year, spring of 2019, actually, I reached out to Dr. Mariana Bertoni, who she owns a lab, the Defect Lab at Arizona State. And she offered me a position as an undergraduate researcher there within Crystal Sonic. Crystal Sonic is a startup looking at wafer manufacturing and wafer spalling, which is just a fancy way to look at more sustainable, more cost-effective wafers. And so I've gotten over the past 3 years to be not only an electrical engineer, a physicist, a mechanical engineer, a chemist sometimes, because with startups you have to fill all these different roles, and that's given me so many skills, not only like professionally and working with so many different types of people and different types of scientists and teams, but technically. So I was then offered a position 2 years ago at the NASA Center doing solar research there, working on solar cells for lunar missions in the future. And this summer, because of all of this last 3 years working with this startup within the ASU lab, I've been offered a position working at SpaceX in their solar department as well. So not only did I get super lucky and be able to choose a niche like solar within electrical engineering that I truly enjoy and love, I got to say, okay, now I want to do space solar panels. And I think really being able to give students not only like an option to find what they love, but an option to pursue even that work more deeper, and especially giving these opportunities to young women and people of color and minorities too, and really helping to shape their careers in the way mine has been in the last 4 years is extremely, extremely important.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Really inspirational. Let's turn now to Dean Squires, Dean of the Fulton Schools of Engineering. Dean Squires, can the STCs create the kind of opportunities and outcomes like we heard about from Nicole, or more broadly, how do the STCs work to create those outcomes?
Well, thanks, Sally. And yeah, I also want to thank Nicole for joining. You get reminded, right, through a summary like that, you know, we have this really incredible, unique opportunity as a university. We produce amazing talent, great students. You know, you're going to meet one of our terrific faculty who are responsible for sort of, you know, teaching and mentoring and helping those students along through their journey. And so when you learn about these outcomes, right, and that's, I think, one of the key words here, that is the outcomes that students like Nicole have through internships, through working, you know, with faculty and getting some sense of the startup landscape. The STCs absolutely can create opportunities like these for other students. And we frankly need to produce more Nicoles. That is, more students who have those chances to engage and become entrepreneur, researcher, engineer, and frankly, you can see it already, leaders. So this is really kind of the moment we're at. And, the conversations, all the other panels do remind of a couple things that I also wanted to bring up here, and it's so resonant. So, we really are, Arizona, we're at this sort of moment, this interesting moment in the journey or the history of the economy. And you see it on campus. The Fulton schools have grown to 27,000 students. ASU is a very large, very dynamic university. So you feel that energy through this growth. You read about it, companies that are relocating, expanding in Arizona. It's all part of this passion and energy and growth of the tech economy, and frankly, the economy writ large across the valley. But you also see it, not only through the construction of maybe a semiconductor fab, but also all of the related engagement, construction, energy that's coming into the valley that really has put us at this key point. And it's right now, that we have to accelerate. That is, accelerate this transition to this new economy. And Sally, you put it so well, and the other speakers have. In addition, what's key here with the STCs, to come back to that, they provide the engine. That was a key phrase, but it's this phrase, sustain innovation. That is, the STCs are the sustained innovation that we need to continue that acceleration of Arizona towards this new economy. So then it gets to, well, exactly how does that happen? Right? What exactly do they do so that, again, the Nicoles and others have a chance to benefit? Well, there's three principal pillars, if you will. Co-funded projects. That is, partnerships where our faculty and students are partnering up with industry and others through unique facilities, accessing unique tool sets and equipment to conduct projects and speed the translation. That is, we want to shorten the time between idea, realization, and implementation. So co-funding of these projects is one element of the partnership. The second is through establishing fellowships, impact engineering fellowships for students who can be embedded on site within companies. So another key piece. And then thirdly, through workforce training, where companies can send employees to, again, these unique facilities, and Professor Holman will speak about that in a moment, that basically allow us to increase the expertise level of the workforce, to broaden access. That's a key facet as well if we're really going to get where we want to be, Greater Phoenix. So last week we kicked off two, those came up. A very successful proposers day with nearly 200 faculty and industry partners, listening to feedback and helping remind us of these goals. So it really is about creating opportunity for students, for sure, but for others as well, across the valley, businesses, industry leaders, and so forth. And it does matter, because Arizona's capacity to enhance growth and innovation in the tech landscape directly impacts the state's ability to transform those ideas into economic activity, create jobs, bring companies, allow the universities to grow in a really productive way. So obviously we're pretty passionate about that.
Thank you, Kyle, for conveying that passion and energy and commitment. We'll turn now to our third panelist. As I said, is Dr. Zach Holman. Now, Zach, you're a faculty member, of course, in the Fulton Schools of Engineering, but you're also head of the Energy and Materials STC. Can you give us some examples of how this paradigm is already working and what kind of projects your STC is taking on?
Yes, thank you, Sally. So in 2021, we kicked off the first two STCs at ASU. One of them is on advanced manufacturing, and the other one, as Sally said, is on energy, materials, and devices. And we call that one amped. Yes, because we're amped up and excited about it, but also because it's about advanced materials, processes, and energy devices. And I want to give you a peek into what we're doing inside the STC. It has three topical thrust areas. One is on solar, and we heard Nicole talk a little bit about projects that she's worked on there. One is on batteries, and the third is on power electronics. And these three are key to creating our electrified future. So when you think of solar, think of questions like, how do we make solar cells more efficient? How do we make them last longer? How do we make them cheaper? And think of companies like First Solar, grown right here in Arizona. Think of companies like Meyer Burger that just announced a couple months ago that it's building a new facility in Goodyear to manufacture modules. And think of startup companies like Sunflex Solar that are emerging out of ASU. In the area of batteries, we're asking and answering questions like, how can we charge batteries faster and also discharge them faster? How can we store more energy in each battery? How can we be less reliant on some of the critical materials that are rare earths? And how do we have better recycling processes? And there you can think of battery companies that are starting in the state of Arizona, like NPower, which was an ACA AIC winner, I believe, last year. And down in Tucson, you can think of companies like Scion Power, but you can also think of users of such advanced batteries like the electric vehicle manufacturers that are growing both in number and size in the state of Arizona. And then finally, in the area of power electronics, we're thinking about things like how do you shuttle electricity from where it's generated on the grid to where it gets used on the grid? As we integrate more solar, more batteries onto the grid, how do we have a stable electricity grid? Also things like vehicle charging. All of those are managed by power electronics. And you think of companies like NXP and like On Semiconductor here in the Valley. Let me give you just a specific example of what a project might look like in the area of solar. And I'm really excited about this example because it happens that today, a new research paper came out in one of the Nature journals reporting the results of some ASU research on a method to accelerate making solar cells better. Now, the paper talks about some cool academic science stuff, but what I'm really excited to tell you is that the STC has gone and picked up this project and funded it in a way to distribute those results, to translate those results to Arizona industry. And in fact, this new method that was created has now been replicated at a large Arizona solar company and at a New York company that, because in part of this sort of partnership with ASU, is now starting activities here in Arizona. So there's a great example of the STCs linking into business attraction for the state. Now, the STCs aren't just about working with established companies, they're also about forming new companies. And Nicole mentioned that, you know, she did work starting as an undergraduate with Crystal Sonic, the startup company. Now, Crystal Sonic, as Nicole mentioned, is trying to change the process that makes expensive wafers. Those expensive wafers, if you hear the word wafer and you're familiar with semiconductor, you might think of silicon, but there are other wafers types too, and those are the ones driving power electronics, things like gallium nitride. Crystal Sonic is an ASU startup in the area of the STC that is changing the way that's done to reduce the cost pretty dramatically. So those are some specific examples of you know, what's going on inside an STC right now.
Thank you so much, Zach. You really gave us some concrete examples of how it's working. Thank you very much. I want to turn back to Nicole. I was just so taken with your story. You've had a remarkable time here at ASU, and you're only a senior, but tell us a little bit about how that experience has affected what you're going to do in the rest of your life. What's next for you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear how it's affected me. It's shaped, I guess, every facet of me the last 3 years, being able to work in this lab, and then on top of that, have these outside industry experiences. But something funny I like to always bring up is that 10 years ago, I probably didn't even know what an engineer was. So it's crazy to me that now I'm able to do all of this like really exciting engineering work. And I feel like because I kind of did put myself into that box of like, oh, to be an engineer, you couldn't be talkative and you couldn't be entrepreneurial and you couldn't like want to like do business stuff also like on top of the technical side. But being really having that interaction not only with the company, but with Dr. Mariana Bertoni and Dr. Pablo Guerma-Cole, who I worked under, they really built up like my self-esteem, like as a student and as a researcher. So when I go into industry, I can really know what I'm talking about and things like that. But going into my future, I'm planning on applying to graduate school. I'm going to apply to go into a PhD in material science. So we'll see where I end up. I apply in December of 2022. But I really just think that these STCs are really going to show students that you don't have to choose between your research self and your entrepreneurial self. And I think that's just like really, really, really important. And I think it's going to make a huge impact on ASU and the students here.
Thank you, Nicole. And I know we all wish you every success. I know you're going to be incredibly successful in the next stage of your career. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So Zach, just turning back, I think what will be crucial to the success of the SDCs and the New Economy Initiative more broadly is not only how many companies we're able to attract to Arizona and indeed startups that we're able to assist with. The question is, will they stay in Arizona? So how do we help ensure not only these companies' success, but their desire to remain part of our community?
That's a great question, Sally. Yeah, sustaining what we start is just critical. And I think the first piece is the great work that's being done by organizations like PEI, by GPEC, by ACA in creating a business environment that very clearly works in attracting and growing companies here. We're in the middle of that. We're seeing that success right now. So kudos to all of those organizations. And, you know, ASU has a really important role to play as well. And I think of three things that come to mind that are specific to ASU's role in this sustainability of our new economy. The first one has to be producing the workforce needed. And ASU's the largest school in the country and has the largest engineering school in the country with over 27,000 engineers. That still blows my mind, because when I went to school, I went to a small college that had 1,300 students, and now I'm teaching in an electrical engineering school that has more than 1,300 students. So it's really pretty amazing, the scale of what ASU has to offer and how critical that is to driving the economy. The second thing I would say would be enabling facilities and capabilities. I think we heard about that in the earlier panel about WearTech. And another example that I really like is our Macro Technology Works facility at ASU Research Park in South Tempe. That's a former Motorola fab. And in that building, we have ASU researchers, ASU facilities. We also have tenants that include 8 startup companies and several larger companies in the semiconductor space, working together in a research ecosystem. Those sorts of facilities are really crucial, particularly for small companies, in lowering the barrier to entry, especially if it's a capital intensive product that they're developing or a capital intensive industry. And then the third thing would be, continued innovation at the university. And I think, ASU's record speaks for itself there with our #1 in innovation award for, I think it's 7 years now. So I think those three things are key pieces that ASU can bring.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I think we just have maybe 1 or 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask Dean Squires, if I'm a member of the audience and I want to get involved with this work, what should I do?
Well, thanks, Sally. It's simple. So contact us, either just reach out directly to anybody on the panel that you've heard from, but there's an email address, STC for Science and Technology Center, stc@asu.edu. So again, stc@asu.edu. Ping that. We will be sure to connect you with the NEI team. They can talk with you about how to get involved. We do need that partnership. That's the real genuine opportunity that we have. We look forward to engaging around that. And that really is how we produce that workforce, generate those ideas, and continue to accelerate the transformation of Arizona to the new economy.
Thank you, Kyle. And I want to thank our whole panel, Kyle, Zach, and especially our student, Nicole, who joined us today. And thank you to the audience, and I'll turn it back to our host now.
Thank you, Dr. Morton, and to our engineering leaders of today and tomorrow for your perspectives. That was incredibly inspiring and really amazing to hear all of the great work that's already underway.
Sure was. PEI's applied research centers are advancing some potentially life-changing technologies, and ASU's science and technology centers are already making an impact on key industries in our state.
Yes, it's easy to see how these additional investments will pay dividends into the future.
Now that we've heard from all of our innovative leaders who are doing the groundwork of these amazing new technologies and industries, it's time to hear about how all of this adds up to transforming our state's economy and trajectory. I'd like to welcome Chris Camacho. Chris
All
is
right.
President and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Economic Council and one of the founding members of PEI. Chris's particular expertise in emerging technology, tax policy, and international economic development have equipped him to be one of the state's most impactful leaders when it comes to our economic future. Chris, thanks for joining us today. We can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dean and Grace, for being great hosts today. And I know I have a few short minutes to kind of close this up here, so I will be brief, but just want to congratulate the entirety of the network that's been involved in today's event, and really to celebrate the good work in blockchain and certainly wearable technologies, but also the STC work with ASU and many of the partners that have come together to make this possible. I think about and reflect over the last decade the kind of economic transformation that we've experienced. And those of you that are still on the program today that were here a decade ago, this is a very different economy. I had the pleasure of kicking off last night the Venture Madness program across the street here in downtown Phoenix, where we were celebrating now. We have 13,000 technology companies here in the market with over 770 software companies that have been launched now here in the market. So the difference from a decade ago is you can touch and feel the change, and it's capital, it's ideation moving into commercialization to new products being formulated. None of that would be possible without this approach of really building really robust STEM talent, like the last gentleman was talking about, the scale in which we're placing new students into fields that matter, that are relevant, that meet the demands of industry today, coupled with the capital formation approach with the many partners have been involved in that enable us to place the capital, that risk capital into place, that enable these companies to get through their seed rounds and ultimately to A and B rounds and beyond. And some of these companies now, just in the last few short months, have become unicorn status. I remember the days of old where we may get one of those a year if we were lucky. Now we're getting a number of those kind of companies that are scaling significant revenue, but just as important, scaling new employees, in our community. At the same time, this is incredible pro-business environment, and I try to use the mindset of 10 years ago, where we were growing as a community, but we certainly were not growing in dynamism. And I think about the public policy leadership that we've seen out of Governor Ducey, certainly the legislators that you heard from today. They're committed to focusing on the innovation intensity, the critical modern infrastructure, and certainly the throughput relating to STEM to meet industry demands of tomorrow. And without all of those things moving in a flywheel or an ecosystem, we would not be in the fortuitous position we are today. And so, a few final remarks, I'll share is that we're on the precipice of one of the most unique trends that I've seen in my 20 years doing economic development, this first cycle around semiconductors. Semiconductors are obviously critical to every major connected device that exists in the world, and coming off the heels of Taiwan Semiconductor and Intel and so many other legacy firms we've had in our market that are doing not just legacy things, but more importantly, new emerging technologies here in the Valley. We have become now the epicenter for a magnet for semiconductor talent, semiconductor company growth, and I'd like to say you ain't seen nothing yet. What's ahead is aligned with the engineering school at Ira Fulton that you heard Dean Squires talk about. This is a constant feeder system where we're reshaping the United States competency and depth in semiconductors, and we're one of the top 3 places in the country that's happening. So we're in the midst of the CHIPS Act, which is going through the reconciliation process in DC. That we expect that to really evolve over the next 60 days. And following that, there's a really unique opportunity with a science and technology center associated with the CHIPS Act. And we've worked closely with our partners at ASU and some national colleagues at how do we ensure the positioning of the Metro Phoenix market, and certainly the state of Arizona enables us to become that beacon of future, not only investment, but future minds coming together to advance the next generation of technologies. What that spillover effect creates is massive, significant jobs consequence and further economic diversity. All of these pieces go hand in hand. I'll just give you one other stat on the capital side that, again, it's a moving experience from 10 years ago, where if you look at the last 6 quarters alone, we've seen $7 billion of capital placed in our state. And that capital placement affords us to continue to evolve as a community and insulate ourselves against what we've seen in terms of thresholds of growth and single family commercial and even tourism and other mainstay industries. It's a good thing when we have these base industries become the dominant sector of growth, whereby now our manufacturing base in terms of jobs exceeding the base of construction jobs. So that's really what this is all about. It's about this transformational period we're experiencing here in Greater Phoenix. And we couldn't do that without leaders from the board at PEI, the education system coming together to ensure that we have a formulated strategy on innovation, on STEM, and we're working very closely with our key legislators that really understand the needs to make the right strategic investments. And what's also interesting to me as someone who's on the front lines working with the companies and the capital folks nationally and internationally, the general brand feedback that we garner is that really Phoenix is experiencing a rebirth, a transformation of sorts that's playing into this next industry 4.0 or industrial technology evolution that's happening in the United States. We're one of the very few places that has tailwinds of growth, tailwinds of people that want to move here and are self-selecting the quality of life attributes that our communities afford. But again, I don't want to take that for granted. We have to put ourselves in a position to compete in this global economy. And again, without this strategic direction that we've been able to garner and harness with key legislative leadership, county and city leadership, together with our private novel innovators, that's what makes this community tick. We're a spirit of kind of frontier mindset with this kind of culture of innovation, and we need to continue to play to that strength. And we have to do so in a nonpartisan, apolitical way that allows this community to become the most right place for entrepreneurs to be successful. So this is a constant dot connecting time for us. And again, I just want to close by thanking all of the speakers today, all of those that put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to ensure not only PEI is successful, but just as important, we're evolving this market in a way that we're all proud of. So with that, Dean and Grace, I want to thank you for leading this conversation today. I learned a lot too, just getting into the depths of conversations around blockchain and WearTech and where we stand with the cohorts, and just the sheer capacity of our university and community college systems that are building these minds of tomorrow. We're in an incredibly unique spot as a community. So thank you again, and we'll look forward to the next opportunity to visit.
Thank you, Chris. That was great. And thank you to everyone who's joined us today. As you've heard, there is an incredible opportunity for Arizona to position itself as a leader in innovation and economic growth with continued investment in the initiatives described and discussed today.
Yes, I'm leaving today very inspired and energized by all of our speakers and leaders. And again, a huge thanks to our esteemed panelists, all of you for your time and attention, and the production teams that help bring this event to life. So you can learn more about all of these exciting programs and initiatives here at azpei.org and impactarizona.asu.edu. So with that, I'm Grace O'Sullivan.
And I'm Dean Duncan, and this has been the State of Innovation Summit. Thank you.